It is officially draft week, so we are just a few days away from seeing who the Packers select in this upcoming draft. After a few months of speculation and mock drafts, we are finally almost there, and I will be streaming for this draft for rounds 1, 2, and 3. So Thursday night, I will be starting at 7:45 Eastern Standard Time as the draft starts at 8 Eastern. And then Friday, I will be starting at 6:45 Eastern Standard Time as it starts at 7. So make sure to come on by, join the live stream, and hang out during this Packers draft. So since we are just a few days away from the NFL draft, in today's video, I want to go over all the pre-draft visits the Packers have had with this year's upcoming prospects. Each NFL team is allowed to have 30 pre-draft visits. Now, right now, the list is sitting at 31 players, but they're also allowed to bring in players that went to local schools, so a couple of these might be that case. I don't know exactly what the radius is for it not to count as a top 30 pre-draft visit, but I have all 31 players here to go over real quick for you guys, so let's get into it. All right, so let's bring up the list here, and we'll start at the top at the quarterback position. First and foremost, Hendon Hooker from Tennessee was a top 30 visit. He is projected to go in around the second round. He could even jump into the first round there. Very interesting visit for the Green Bay Packers. I don't think they'd spend a draft pick on a quarterback in the first or second round, but we've been shocked before. Then we see Tanner Morgan out of Minnesota. He's projected as a 7th round / undrafted free agent. Definitely a quarterback that could eventually be the backup to Jordan Love. Last quarterback on this list, Sean Clifford for Penn State. Again, a 7th round / undrafted free agent. And what you'll notice with this list is you'll see a lot of guys that are 7th round / undrafted free agent. And basically what that means is the Packers meeting with these guys is they're very interested in them if they don't end up being drafted as an undrafted free agent or even in the 7th round. So a lot of these guys you could eventually see in the green and gold that show the 7th round / undrafted free agency. Moving on to the running back position, I could see the Packers drafting a running back to the middle to late rounds as their third guy. Yes, they do have Goodson still, but I do believe they could still draft a guy. At the top here, we see Keaton Mitchell from North Carolina. He's projected in the 4th and 5th round. Evan Hull from Northwestern. He's projected in the 6th round. I really like him. A really nice receiving back. I think he would be an excellent draft selection there in the 5th to 7th rounds there. Then the last running back here we see is Lou Nichols out of Central Michigan. He is projected as a 7th rounder or undrafted free agent. Now moving on to the wide receiver position, I think the Packers need to draft multiple wide receivers in this draft, at least 2, one early and then one in the middle round. So we see the first wide receiver on this list that was a visit is Rashee Rice out of SMU. He's projected as a 2nd round wide receiver. I love Rashee Rice. I've mocked him to the Packers in a lot of my mock drafts. He's a very nice prototypical possession wide receiver that the Packers could definitely use. He's probably one of the most pro-ready wide receivers in this draft class. Had a nice production the last 2 years at SMU. I love Rashee Rice. I feel like that guy screams Packers wide receiver. Next on this list, we see Dontavian Wicks, another guy that I feel like is a Packers wide receiver out of Virginia. Didn't really test well in the combine, but has a lot of experience at Virginia, and I really like his route running ability and just overall as a blocker and in general, just a overall wide receiver. He's a good one there. He's projected in the 3rd / 4th round. Then we see Ryan Miller out of Furman, projected in 7th or undrafted free agent. Adonicus Sanders from Temple, again, 7th and undrafted free agent. And then Cole Tucker from NIU, 7th round, undrafted free agent. Like I said, I definitely see the Packers drafting multiple wide receivers in this draft and then obviously signing a couple undrafted free agent. It's going to be very interesting to see how this wide receiver room molds. I still think they'll bring in a veteran like Matt LaFleur has said time and time again through this offseason. But like I said, I think they draft multiple guys, so it's going to be interesting to see who those guys are to add to that group of Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Samori Toure, and Bo Melton. Now moving on to the tight end position, and there's a lot of guys here, and as there should be. I think the Packers could draft 3 tight ends in this draft. A lot of previous drafts, if there's a position of need, they end up drafting like 3 guys at that position. They did it with wide receiver. They did it with running back in the past. I think this year could be it for tight end. First on this list is Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. A lot of people's first tight end, number 1 tight end in this draft, mine included. I really do like him, but obviously I just don't really agree with the drafting a tight end in the 1st round. Then we see Dalton Kincaid, a lot of people's number 2 tight end from Utah. Again, if they fall into the early 2nd and the Packers decide to trade up or just, select them with one of their 2nd round picks if they get one from New York, I'm totally okay with that. And the 3rd tight end here, Darnell Washington from Georgia, a lot of people's favorite tight end. They like him more than Mayer and Kincaid. He didn't get too much receiving time at Georgia just because Brock Bowers was there. He's a good blocker, not really a great route runner. I think he has a lot to build on, obviously, with that athletic frame, and I would welcome him here, obviously, in Green Bay. I think he would be an awesome addition. But yeah, definitely in like the second round there, as we see his projection first/second round. Then we see Josh Weil here from Cincinnati, a 5th round projection. Could potentially draft another tight end from Cincinnati. Then we see Ben Sims from Baylor, 7th round/undrafted free agent. And then finally, Cameron McDonald from Florida State, 7th round/undrafted free agent. Moving on to the offensive line, the first tackle on this list is Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. This guy's been flying up boards. I could see him sneaking into the first round, but I still have him as a first round/second round projected. I really like him at tackle. If the Packers were to, trade back in the first round and select Darnell Wright in the 20s, I'd be totally okay with that. I think he's going to be an excellent tackle in the NFL. Then we see Kadeem Telfort here from UAB, 7th round/undrafted free agent. Then Antonio Mafi, a guard from UCLA, 5th round to 6th round projection there. Now moving on to the defensive side of the ball, starting on the defensive line, we have defensive lineman Carl Brooks from Bowling Green, a 4th/5th round projection. I really like this guy. Ton of production at Bowling Green the past few years. Fits right in as a 3 tech on the Packers defensive line. I've mocked him in a couple of the Packers mock draft in that 3rd to 4th to 5th round range. I really do like him. Then we see Jacqueline Roy here from LSU, a 5th round projection, and Scott Matlock from Boise State, a 7th round to undrafted free agent. The Packers, I see definitely drafting a defensive lineman, maybe even early, after losing Jerron Reed and Dean Lowry. That's a lot of snaps that they lost from last season. They're going to have to replace those snaps with either draft picks or veteran free agents. Moving on to the edge, we see Will McDonald IV, kind of an undersized edge guy, similar to Nolan Smith, but also a really athletic edge and produced at Iowa State. He is a first round/second round projection. I see him going in the second, but I could also see him sneaking into the first round, and that kind of goes with all of these guys I have at edge here. The next one being Keon White, Georgia Tech. I feel like the Packers really do like Keon White. I have him as a second round projection, but again, could see him sneaking into the first. Then Adetomiwa Adebawore from Northwestern, probably the most athletic for size to athlete ratio edge player we've seen in a very, very long time. And just because of that, I could see him sneaking into the first round. So all these guys technically could sneak into the first round. Edge is a very important position, and the Packers have a need at it with Rashawn Gary coming back from torn ACL. Preston Smith is aging. Yes, Kingsley Enagbare, wonderful draft selection last year, but they could definitely add another guy into that room. They're lacking depth right now with Rashawn Gary not being ready. Now moving on to the defensive backs, we have 4 safeties here. The Packers have a big need at safety, although they re-signed Donald Levitt, Rudy Ford, and also signed free agent Tarvarius Moore. They could still add a couple safeties in this draft class. First one on the list is Jamie Robinson from Florida State, 3rd/4th round projection, one of my favorite safeties in this class. This class is kind of a weak safety class. I really like Jordan Battle. I really like Jamie Robinson. Then we see Jartavius Martin from Illinois. He's a 3rd round projection. He's more of that slot cornerback star role. So if the Packers want to add someone like that, Jartavius Martin is an excellent option at that role. Then we see Quindell Johnson out of Memphis, 7th round/undrafted free agent. Jordan Howden from Minnesota, 7th round/undrafted free agent. Then we only have 1 cornerback on this list. I think the Packers could add a cornerback in this draft just to add more depth into that room, and Tyreek Stevenson I think would be an excellent add out of Miami, a 2nd round/3rd round projection. So those are all 31 players. Like I said, not every single one of those is official. It's just what's been reported throughout multiple websites. A couple of those could be local, and we could still see a couple names added to this list. But that's what the list is at right now for the top 30, even though it's 31 players, visits for the Green Bay Packers. And one thing to note with top 30 visits, it doesn't mean that these are all the only players the Packers are going to be drafting from. Last year, Quay Walker didn't do a visit with the Packers, whereas Devontae Wyatt did. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to draft these players or they're not going to draft these players. In 2018 and 2019, Jair Alexander, Rashawn Gary, and Darnell Savage, all 3 of those guys in the first round for 2018 and 2019 didn't do a top 30 visit with the Packers. And last year, Devontae Wyatt, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Samori Toure, Tariq Carpenter, and Rasheed Walker all did a top 30 visit with the Green Bay Packers. So it obviously does mean something, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to 100% draft some of these guys. But one of the most important things I think with the top 30 visits is looking at the position makeup, how many visits they had with particular positions. Whereas we see tight end here, they had 6 visits with tight ends. That tells you how much they're going to value tight end in this upcoming draft. And like I said, I 100% see them drafting at least 2. They could even draft 3. We see them also visiting with 4 safeties, 5 wide receivers, a few running backs, a couple, edge players, and a few defensive linemen. So the priority here for these top 30 visits is definitely wide receiver, tight end, and safety. And those are 3 really big needs for the Green Bay Packers. So although the Packers might draft a wide receiver, tight end, or safety that wasn't on this list, they're obviously still highly valuing those positions because they need those positions. But yeah, I am super excited for this draft. I am every year. I love draft season. And like I said, I'll be live streaming Thursday and Friday for rounds 1, 2, and 3. So I'd really appreciate if you guys came by to the channel. If you are new here, I cover everything Packers, news, analysis, and updates pretty much every single day, from the draft to salary cap, free agency, and in-season stuff. So that does interest you. I'd really appreciate it if you went down, click the subscribe button, and also left a like on the video to support the channel. But that about does it for this video. Just wanted to go over all the visits the Packers have had since we're so close to the NFL draft. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.